Okay, Fischer's reached the ending, but in scene 3, how does he salvage this ending to get a draw? I know I'm spoiling the game result, but Fischer can't really win against very good play or good play, because he is like 2 pawns down here, and this pawn majority looks quite fearsome, and White's pieces are still well placed. So anyway, Fischer plays b4, and he's dissolving his last pawn, of course, but now there's 2-0 majority. If these pawns can just come up the board, it would seem as though that's the end of the game. Can Fischer set up a blockade? That's the key question on the dark squares. So White played h3, and now king f6, rook b5, now bishop d6. A nice central square for the bishop, eyeing b8, but are the pawns, they're ready to roll. So bishop e4 is also targeting a landing square for one of the pawns. I think maybe White should have perhaps tried, easy to say in retrospect, to use his king in a more effective way to herd the pawns. But it's interesting anyway how a blockade was potentially set up here. So rook e8, check, bishop f3. Again, White has a persistent grip on the position. Fischer throws in this check, then plays rook f1. So he's being annoying at the moment. Rook d5, he throws in another check. And here, the situation changes after rook d2. Fischer decides he's got chances now in this opposite coloured bishop and pawn ending. He takes off the rooks. Well, better than the rook ending anyway. So a choice of ending is key and instructive for all of us, I think. That the rook ending is totally lost, but exchanging off rooks, just going into the opposite coloured bishop ending, has some drawing chances. So now h4, so that pawn is difficult to get to. The king comes as though it's coming to the centre, but it's actually stepping in to go to the queen side potentially as well, to set up a blockade on dark squares. So king e5, king d7, actually going on the light squares, king c7, b4, now king b8, and we start to see now, after this king a7, this might not be so easy for White to win. King c4, now bishop g3, b5, and it looks as though the bishop's coordinated with the pawns. And how can Black possibly stop this? Well, he plays bishop f2, and this is the key move, one of the key moves, I think, because Black is prepared to sacrifice the bishop to be a bishop down, because if White wins this pawn and Black king goes to h8, this is a dark square, that's a light square bishop. Draw. So White can't carry on here routinely with b6 check, because bishop takes b6 would probably be a draw in most cases. If this situation can be reached where the black king goes over here, that would be a draw. So bishop e2, bishop e3, Fischer's waiting now, and bishop d2 encourages the pawn forward, or White to play king a4, which doesn't seem to be very promising. So king b7. So can White arrange protection of b6 to play a6? Plays king a4 as if he's going to b5 to then play a6 check. Fischer stops now king b5 with this move, king c6, even though there's potential for bishop f3. So what's going on here? Why not bishop f3? Check. I think in the game bishop b5 check was played. Let's have a quick look at the game continuation. After king c5, a draw was agreed. I think it's the same mechanism as the other variation which had potential. That here, if b7, then the dark square bishop is the hero now with bishop f4. Is now a6, and then it's bishop b8. So opposite coloured bishops can be a tough nut to crack, even if you're 2 pawns up and the connected pass pawns. So let's look at the bishop f3 alternative. I think it's much the same thing, just the bishop supporting the pawn on b7. So once this dark square blockade is set up, Fischer's able to draw the game. So what a remarkable salvaging of the game from a disastrous opening. Not brilliant middle game either. If we go back to move 40, it looks as though Fischer was busted, but he dissolves his queenside pawn and cleverly goes into this endgame, which maximises his drawing chances when White plays rook d2. What else does White play? He can't move the king because the rook takes f3 check. He doesn't want to allow perpetuals, and he doesn't want to lose b2 or leave his second row vulnerable. If in this position, let's have a quick look at this position. There's bishop f4 check, and I don't know, maybe White could have improved his play to try and win this. But he went in for the opposite colour bishop ending, and it was just a remarkable blockade set up just in time to be able to salvage the draw here. So I think this memorable game demonstrates Fischer's resourcefulness, and even when he's like being rolled over almost in the opening, how such a player of Fischer's class can hold in there, and you have to beat him over and over again in the middle game and then in the end game. And if you don't, Fischer's going to get a draw off you at least. So please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.